So we're having such an important conversation, Matt, and I did not
start recording.
Hit the record. So, welcome everybody. We're just diving in. So, Matt, I'm going to let you take the floor here, but we were just talking about daylight savings as we were navigating the different time zone issues and what have you, and talking about how sleep really does impact our mental and physical well-being. One of the podcasts, Bruce and I focused on this, and how science and research really is showing that that change in that 1 hour really does not benefit our health and well-being. And there's plenty of stats, which you can go back and listen to the episode. But Matt, go ahead, share what your perspective was about that, and then obviously introduce yourself to the audience. So
Absolutely. So Matt Perkins. I work in the transportation industry, companies, business to business logistics. And, you know, I got brought in onto your podcast through your former co-host, Bruce, and my relationship with him. He helps me and my sales team.
Awesome.
But when I started listening to the podcast, when I learned he had one, just the topics you talk about, I find it so important. Just from an all around, you know, the mental health. And like right now we're talking about sleep, right? Mm-hmm. And with our industry, as you know, we are in a very high stress, fast paced, mm-hmm. ever changing, ever evolving, sometimes slightly unprofessional industry that really can drive people nuts. Mm. And it really resonated with me, like, you know, what you speak about in your topics, because when I was an employee, at a former brokerage, I actually had a teammate ask me once how I can keep my cool when the world's on fire all around me, and how I just don't flip a desk. Mm-hmm. And I just simply told her, if I allow everything to bother me, you're going to wheel me out in a straitjacket. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to look like Hannibal Lecter in the movie, and away I go. You know, so that was like and that was even well before mental health was really on the scene, mm-hmm. and a topic of such discussion. Mm-hmm. This is going back 15 years ago. So it's always been kind of important to me, and that mm-hmm. really resonated, that discussion, the fact that she was allowing everything to bother her. Mm-hmm. I thought, well, how do I regulate myself? Mm-hmm. How do I keep my calm? I've been doing this for 23 years. You know, how have I not lost my mind? So I thought it was important to maybe get on here from a perspective of, you know, I'm not educated in the sense that you are, but I'm living it, and maybe it can help people in everything that's going on in our world.
Well, it sounds like you had a great deal of self-awareness, and then maybe throughout your journey, whether it was through your childhood or different partnerships or coaches or people that you've had as mentors, you kind of learned how to regulate your emotions. And I don't think, my background is in education, and I can say I started at the high school level. I worked with at-risk children, and then I made my way to the collegiate level where I was teaching health and wellness. And even in that space, Matt, there was not a lot of conversation about emotional regulation or even body awareness, so that we can understand and start to recognize those somatic experiences, or like different changes in our heart rate or anxiety, or, you know, all those physical symptoms that come up that eventually impact the way we respond and we react as a way just to keep ourselves safe. So it's very biological. And I mean, even in science class, hopefully things have changed. It's been probably 10 years since I've been in that space, but we weren't teaching our kids this. So if we're not taught this in school, I mean, I think the world has changed now because of technology and our ability to learn more things. You know, you and I are of the same age demographic. I'm assuming, like, there were no computers back then, you know, and how are you supposed to learn this stuff? And our parents certainly weren't taught this. But I think, you know, as you alluded to, part of the reason this podcast came about was being in this space and seeing the stress when COVID happened and people were not able to emotionally regulate themselves. There was a lot of anxiety, and we were already in a heightened state of anxiety just in the transportation industry to begin with, because of all the stress and uncertainty, which really I think is at the heart of how well we show up healthy for the long haul. So anyway, sleep, is a big part of that. So,
and that's something I adopted many years ago. So I read, some simple studies on the effects of sleeping off your circadian sleep rhythms. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't pay attention to that. They figure Friday night is bar night and they go out. And I was a victim of that too in my 20s. When you're up to 2 a.m, but you woke up at 6 a.m. for work, and then you sleep in because you have to sleep off whatever you did the night before, you've thrown your body into this crazy state of condition. It doesn't know how to recover itself. And if you do it again Saturday night into Sunday, and then you crash on a Sunday into Monday, you wonder why you got the Monday blues, right? Mm-hmm. The Monday blues simply because you have thrown your body into this crazy pattern it doesn't know. Mm. And now here you are, sluggish on the first day back to work, and you're going to waste, 20% of your work week because of all the damage you did not keeping your sleep patterns the same. And it's, it'll take you time to right that ship, but you've only got a few more days before you decide to restart again. And it throws your body in such turmoil.
Yeah, it would be interesting for folks to teach their kids or their teens how best to be their own experiment and notice when their sleep hygiene habits are interrupted, how they feel mentally, physically, their energy levels, and pay attention to those signs. And then I think as we become informed by the data, which is not going to lie, and we can take a breath and step back and look at the way we're living and our lifestyle, and when we're, maybe prioritizing other things over our health and well-being, whatever, topic of health you want to talk about, when you become your own experiment and notice, oh, can I really, really function at a high level with 4 hours sleep? Okay, is it really worth how, excuse my language, shitty I feel today, or the mistakes that I'm making? And then people are noticing it. Maybe I'm more irritated and I don't have as much patience. But I think again, going back to a lot of our younger population entering this space, their prefrontal cortex isn't even fully developed yet, and they're not even aware of that. So they may not have the bandwidth to understand why they're emotionally charged, reactive, and maybe they're not resolving conflicts in the most healthy way. But I think, the more that we talk, and you and I talk, and different people come on the podcast talk, the more we start to educate our young population in this space, I think the more the light bulb's going to come on, and they're going to start to pay attention to their health and well-being, and they're going to be more successful, just more happy, more healthy, and then learn not to skip, and if they do, being aware of what cost that comes with, and then maybe setting some boundaries where they're able to maybe take some time to reset, so that they don't burn out and become stressed out.
That's important too. And I think it's important for managers, owners, supervisors, whatever level, to observe those and see what's going on, and, try to help where possible. I've seen it personally inside my own office, and I try to work with everybody so that they understand. And I give them examples of what I'm doing to help regulate it. 'Cause at the end of the day, I'm really no different. Just because I've been doing it longer doesn't really make me that different. It makes me experienced, but I'm easily capable of experiencing the same exact scenario. It's just, how do we come out of the other side of it is what's important. And, how do we recover from it and just keep that right frame of mind?
When did you notice that you really started to pay attention to health, and what does health mean to you? Because that can be very different for different people at different stages in their life. And I think it's important to express the fact that we need to be kind to ourselves and understand that we are not going to get it right all the time. We're going to sacrifice some areas of our well-being. But I think, again, just kind of pointing out for folks when you started to notice, something's off, and then you started to prioritize your health?
So for me, I'm more of a physical person per se. I've been having this talk just within the last couple of days, actually, coincidentally, but once upon a time, I weighed somewhere between 270 and 280 pounds. I forgot what that number was. I never documented it. All I know is I was big. And, you look in the mirror, and I had pretty good self-esteem, so my body image of myself it was distorted because I still thought I looked really good. But the scale was telling me a different number, and I started feeling different. Yeah. So what really got me, though, was, my son had just first been born. I think this was before my daughter was born. And, he was getting rambunctious. He wants to play. And Dad just wanted to sit on the couch and watch TV. I already put in a good long day, freight brokering. And I'm like, I just want to rest. So there's that. There's my child wants to play. I don't want to. There's, the threat of diabetes. If you just keep going down a path, you're going to develop health problems. I think I was developing sleep apnea because I was not sleeping well. So that was my rock bottom. Finally, I said, enough's enough, and the thing I said to myself internally was, I'm going to change my body and I'm going to I'm going to adjust before my body tells me what I can eat. So I'm going to adjust what I eat so that I don't have to eat a certain way to live. And that was it. So I went down this journey, and, it's had its ups and downs, not dramatic. I mean, once I dropped some weight, I went, down, and I fluctuated here and there. Today I can proudly say, literally yesterday was the first day I stepped on a scale under 200 pounds.
Oh, congratulations. Well,
I mean, it's been a big feat.
Well, it's like, so when you say that to me, and I'm in the fitness and wellness business, we set these goals in life, and then we think once we reach the goal, we can take our foot off the gas and relax and coast. And then life happens, and then we start to we're not even aware that we start to go back to some habits that were most likely not the most helpful. I can say that in my own life, when I'm working a lot and projects are coming up, and I'm really focused on something other than my health, I start to sacrifice it. Maybe I'll stay up too late. I won't hydrate as much, or I'll eat processed foods, and then I know how that makes me feel. But, that's life. That's going to happen. But I think the more cognizant that we're aware of how our behaviors, our health behaviors, impact us, not today, but tomorrow, the next day, hereafter. When we start to think that way about our health, I think that will help us think more long-term in terms of lifestyle behavior habits, and prevention versus waiting until we step on the scale or the doctor give us his reading. Oh, you're pre-diabetic, what's going on? Or you're not sleeping, or maybe your spouse is indicating to you, that you're waking up often. There are lots of signs there, but sometimes we put them aside because we're so busy with our to-do list and what's next. And, in today's world, that's really, really hard because there's so many responsibilities and distractions out there that as a species, we didn't face even 100 years ago. So it's, just being compassionate, but then being realistic too. And then acknowledging when you screw up and not making excuses, and then adjust accordingly.
And I'll say also it's almost the flip side, but it's the same. It comes to the same conclusion. It's everyone wants to start tomorrow, but then when they do decide to take that step, and if it doesn't change them in that instant, we've become a society of instant gratification. Drone. We're on the verge of having a drone deliver your goods, right? When you buy something on the internet, not even have to leave the store.
Goodness, lazy. We've become very lazy too. Sorry.
That's the thing. In fact, I have adjusted my life so much that I take this building that my office is in. There's a parking garage I park in. It's 5 stories tall. I enter through the third level. That's the ground level here in Tennessee. And I go down. I park on the lowest level and take the stairs. The stairs are just as fast at my speed as the elevator because I see the same people walking from another parking lot into my parking garage, up the elevator, and I see them in the lobby of the building. I would take the stairs up to the 16th floor. I'm on the 16th floor here. I would take the stairs, but building management said that the doors are locked for safety purposes. Okay. They only work if you enter from an upper floor to exit for a fire, but you can't go from the lobby up. But in any event, I park the furthest away from a store. I don't look for the front spots anymore. You know, also I'm a car guy, so I don't want door dings. But the walking, it's all the little extra things. And that's the thing. Gratification is not going to come minute one of your workout. You know, you might get your prime delivery in 2 days, but you're going to have to put in the work. But the results are so worth it. And it just, for me, the physical side has really helped me on the mental side. And just keeping everything together, especially with the last, we're going on 2.5 years of this radical change, it's really helped in that circumstance.
I think too, again, just looking at our biology, like we were hunters and gatherers, and people talk about this all the time. And I think it's important to acknowledge the fact that when we're sedentary and we're sitting for so long, our body's made up of this energy and it wants to move. So when you sit and you're stuck in these 90-degree angles all the time, your brain is just not going to function to full capacity. So, here at Global Trans, one of the recent wellness challenges that we had our team participate in, which kind of falls in line with the episode that I just did recently with a young lady from our team, Dustine. We had a challenge where it was every 90 minutes you get up for 5 minutes and you walk or you move your body. And the intention was to be, that way you could be present when you came back to your computer, focused, move the blood flow, and just function in a more healthy way and be mindful during the process. And we had a lot of success with that. We're running that again. But, I think, when we talk physical fitness, sometimes we think we have to put so much time aside to care for our physical well-being, but movement is key. Just as you mentioned, I don't know how long, I'm curious to find out how long your hike really up the steps is to your office. That's huge. And then back down again. Just small increments during the day really add up. And, sometimes we think that old programming that we have to be in a gym for an hour, and lift heavy weights and run as fast as we can. Actually, the science really shows that as little as 2 minutes a day, simply performing a squat has so many health benefits to prevention of, like as you mentioned, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, stroke. We're able to sleep better. We're able to regulate our emotions well. And we allow our body to live in a way where we're more carrying out our day the way we were designed to be.
Yeah. No, and kind of piggyback on what your challenge at Global Trans, what we do here actually, our desks, for instance, this desk my computer's on, it's a stand-up desk. I'm standing up right now. I have not sat in a traditional office chair since I started this company. I think I had one for a month or so, and then we started experimenting with yoga balls and just different versions of those. Our final settled office it's a stand-up desk, and I've got a stool. I call it a Q-tip because it's a heavy weighted base, and then a mushroom seat. Okay. And at best, I rest on it. Yeah. Well, I will. My legs are never at a 90-degree angle. I make sure of that, and I'll just kind of take a load off for a few minutes, and I'm back standing up. So yeah, and you're saying it's little things, and there's actually a workout challenge that I try. I was an attendee with a guest speaker in a fitness space, and told all of us in attendance as a small, intimate group, but basically working out 30 minutes twice a week, working to failure will build you. And if you're looking for like more muscle definition, it will build that muscle quicker than what we've grown up with, which is you're lifting 3 times a week,
Right.
you're running the other days. And I have experimented with it, and I do think there's some merit behind it.
Yeah.
And it's working out to failure. So it doesn't take as much as people, I guess the point of the story, it doesn't take as much as people believe, because the
Right.
old mantras don't always hold as much water as they used to.
Yeah, I think that's, again, where it's important to explore what does health mean to you based upon where you are now and whatever goals you have in life. I mean, if you have, like you mentioned, you referenced your kids. When I finished my PhD, it was on, so I studied the Native American population here in Arizona and physical activity. That was actually what my dissertation was on, and I published my research. And what I found during my experiment, during my research, was the key variable that helped motivate this special population here that is, I would say, at the top of the charts for all health risks. But it was their children, their relationships. So what exercise for them was definitely not about going to a gym. It was definitely taking care of themselves so that they could care and be active with their children and not be a burden on their families. So I think for some people that maybe don't have that motivation to incorporate movement into their life, and I hear this as well, Matt, like it usually is someone else that they love, that they care about, that puts the spark in their butts to move. So that in turn kind of tells me they really weren't thinking or caring about the importance of practicing self-care and feeling good about scheduling time for their health and well-being. Because we're so, I think we're so focused on everyone else and all our responsibilities that we tend to put ourselves last until we have a health crisis. And I, with all the people that I've worked with outside of, athletics, that's what I'm seeing. I see it on a consistent basis. So, it's trying to provide a variety of wellness programming to folks that have different health beliefs, that have different needs. Not everybody wants to, work to failure, and some people just, they're not there. But if they wish to, they absolutely can accomplish anything that they want to. So you have to see yourself. You have to see and envision yourself as whatever health looks like and means to you for whatever reason. And sometimes, again, it's those other folks that you don't want to be a burden to, and you want to keep up with, and you want to feel good, and then still have the energy to show up as your best self at work and take care of all your financial and organizational responsibilities.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with that. I think, again, we're going back to like public persona and how we're getting programmed. A lot of people feel health is a 6-pack. Health is, 5% BMI. Give me a break. And, it's not going to happen. Yes, I started the journey as being health is playing with my kids, but it has blossomed so much more because it has helped me endure years and years of a stressful industry when it comes to a career, when it comes to starting a company. It has helped me also set a stage for my children to hopefully carry that gauntlet, if you will, and continue to lead a healthy lifestyle themselves as they mature into adults and go down their paths, and not hopefully fall victim to the same things that I fell victim to, growing up as a husky kid. I don't say this out loud, but, husky used to be an actual size of clothing, that a descriptive term, and I wasn't.
Yes.
So it's, I don't want them to grow up like that. So it's setting that, it's setting that example. But showing that it doesn't also mean having to be super strict, disciplined. If they want to go for ice cream, I can have some ice cream too. You know, it's good. It's just fine. You know, but you've got to run that balance act, because life will only get busier as life goes on.
Yeah, and I think for me, that's what I've really appreciated seeing in the corporate space. So, you know, it was only 2017 that I entered this space where it was like, oh, you know what? We're going to just get rid of the Coca-Cola today that you're drinking. You know, maybe that bottle of wine at the end of the night is not so great. Let's put that away. You know, maybe you should talk to someone about some coping skills for some stress management techniques. You know, maybe you should get up and just stretch your body, or maybe you should just turn off the news. That to me is health. You know, our relationship with ourselves, our relationships with each other, how we're communicating, how we're talking authentically and not judging and blaming or comparing ourselves. And it's so hard today because that's not the reality. That reality is necessarily showing us every single day.
No, absolutely. And, you know, kind of going back on the alcohol comment, because that kind of hits home to me. I'm currently doing a program called 75 Hard, and it's out there on the internet for all to see. I'm doing it for the second time around because I decided I wasn't hard enough on my food diet. So I decided to be harder about it. This time I've got an accountability group. I've got friends that want to do it with me. So we're all doing it together. But point of the story is I was testing the waters this past summer with alcohol. And I've never had a problem with alcohol, but I'm a very social drinker. If I'm on the golf course with my friends, I'm probably going to have a drink. If I go to dinner with my wife, I'm going to have a drink. But I gave it up this past summer, and I haven't had, we're coming up on almost a year, I believe. I didn't write down the date, but we're coming up on about a year, and it's amazing how sharp I feel.
Yes.
Oh. And I've only recently realized just how sharp I've become. And, you know, if there's ever, you know, words of encouragement to anybody, you know, it's not there to really help a situation ever. I've never known of a situation where alcohol is the helper.
Yeah.
So it's,
you know,
it's those little things, like you said, put the pop away, you know, swap it out for a bottle of water. It's all those little things in our environment that just compound. And then when we start removing those compounding components, it opens the mind, really.
Yeah, James Clear talks about that in Atomic Habits. That's a great book.
Yes.
Kind of echoing off what you had referenced there. Like, I was a single mother, so I never drank until I went to DC and I worked at Georgetown Law there, managing their sport and fitness center. So socially, I began experimenting with drinking. Not much, because I'm one of those people. I was very cognizant at the time of my physical fitness level. I do a lot of marathons and pretty active, and, you know, I did some fitness videos. So body image and body awareness was always pretty key, sometimes not to the best of my mental health. You know, I definitely participated in some behaviors that were not exactly healthy. But anyway, get back to the alcohol thing. I introduced it again into my life, maybe around 2011. You know, I'm in my 40s, and I remember people would joke, because I didn't know anything about, like, what drinks were. Give me a double of this. And I'm like, what's that? Anyway, so it wasn't until I moved here to Arizona and my husband and I got together, we had a discussion about alcohol, and there were some health issues with some medications and then some addictions from those medications. And he really opened my eyes to the fact that, you know, alcohol or any type of drug really is the same thing, but, you know, because it changes your brain, it changes the way you think, the way you feel, puts your some of your defenses down. It's a way to self-soothe or cope. And for some people, without paying attention to it, it can become a problem. So as a social drinker, I decided, like, if you come to my house, I have a lot of alcohol. I haven't drank alcohol in 2 years, and kind of echoing off what you said, like, I enjoyed that social interaction, but I can't say I miss it at all. I definitely notice the difference in how I feel. And I was a red wine drinker, so, you know, with the tannins in there and the headaches and what have you, like, yeah, I missed it. I did miss it. I have to be honest. Like, I missed that sit back, have the glass, you know, the flavor and what have you. But I also noticed, and I wasn't trying to, I lost a couple pounds. I was sleeping better. I was staying more hydrated, because obviously alcohol dehydrates you. And I also was paying homage to my husband and his ideas of, there's not really a difference, Rhonda, between drugs and alcohol. And I had to respect that for him, because I didn't necessarily agree with him at the time. Like, so you can have a drink, but, you know, a drug of choice is, there are some, you know, that's seen in a different light, you know, as toxic or unhealthy behavior. So, but anyway.
I think because it's legal, right? And there's bars and clubs and restaurants that serve, that everyone just assumes it's okay, but it's really, it is.
Really impairs you. It impairs you.
Your husband's absolutely right.
So, but I mean, I share that story because that was really hard for us. And I was really, I would show him research on about wine and how healthy it is, or a glass of, I mean, you can find research for whatever it is your opinion is. Yes. So I share this story because that was a hard conversation for us. You know, and now I don't even give it a thought, but there was some friction there over that conversation. And it's important, I think, for folks, if you're in a situation where you're having a discussion about habits that maybe aren't healthy in a relationship, whether it's, you know, your physical health or that relationship, because maybe that person has certain feelings about certain behaviors that could be triggers for them for whatever. It's important to have those conversations in a trusting way without judging necessarily the behavior. So,
of course. I mean, that's you can never go into a discussion and expect to have any kind of amicable resolution if you go into it judging. You know, it's good to be calm and rational at all times.
So what are some of the main things that you practice, Matt? Maybe it changes seasonally or whatever, but what have you found are like some of the top things, habits in your lifestyle that you practice regularly that have made an impact in not only your mental health and your physical health, but your energy levels at work? Because I think that's where people miss out. Like, talking about movement, like, actually, if you move more, you're going to have more energy. But when you're sedentary, you have such low energy levels that it's hard to fathom that really is a thing. Like, movement gives you energy.
It does. So there's so many things, right? So a funny story when we're talking about moving and energy. If I sit down to watch some TV at night with my wife, I will fall asleep. I'm good for maybe 45 minutes if it's a good show. So I'm trying to wrap up Ozarks. Right. I'm a fan of Ozarks. Yeah.
Good stuff.
So, but don't spoil anything. I'm only like halfway through that second theory, second part now. But I know that's a big thing, right? So motion, or we're talking about sleep. So let's start there.
Okay.
Sleep is my routine. It sounds boring, but tonight I'm going to dinner with my son and his soccer mate, who it's his birthday today, and his father, who I'm friends with. So the four of us are going to go have dinner, little guys' night out. I'll be home and in bed by like 10, 11 o'clock after I go for my second walk for the night. I'll wake up in the morning. I will work out in the morning, and then I will be going to a soccer tournament a couple hours away from here. So sleep is first. I go to bed at the same time, roughly between 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I'm up at 5 in the morning. I keep that routine, and I have crazy energy, and I don't drink coffee. I don't drink coffee at all.
Awesome.
And so sleep. Next thing is working out. For me, working out is important. I'm not saying it's crucial for everybody, but it is for me mentally. I love a great workout. Today was fantastic at my gym. It was lower body day. It knocked me out good. But I work out every day of the week, every single day. And with the 75 Hard program, for anyone that's aware of it, it's working out twice a day. But that's keeping me controlled. It's cutting out the BS that you get hit with every day from every point of view. And because you don't have time for that kind of BS when you're under this kind of program. So it's keeping me in line. And then eating. Eating is a really important part. I've actually done a food sensitivity test. It is a blood test. There's a couple different versions. There's an oral swab, a hair follicle, or a blood test. I suggest a blood test if anyone goes down this route. It'll tell you what kind of food you're sensitive to, not sensitive to, and when you're not sensitive to a food, your body will process it better. So, for instance, a lot of people attribute egg whites as being healthy. My body does not process egg whites the same. Or I'll give you the biggest extreme one that I'm having a difficult time with right now is almonds. Almonds are supposed to be really healthy for you. That is by far the worst food for me to eat. I'm the most sensitive to it. So I've had to take it out of my diet now for the second round of 75 Hard and just not eat almonds. And it's tough because I found some good ones. So that's the thing. I think when it all boils down to what I'm getting at is schedule. Having a schedule is really important so that you're not clouding your mind with garbage. When you don't have time to let the garbage in, the garbage won't eat your mind. And I think that's super important of anything. And then I'd say secondly is setting goals. Where do you want to be in a couple of years? It's not just an interview question that, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It's, here, you could see it right behind me. This one's empty, of course, but that is actually a vision board. So what I did was, these vision boards exist in both offices of ours, and my bigger collection is up at the lobby. So when people come to work here, I take it off the wall and I hand it to them. I say, hey, what's your goals? Like, what do you want? It can be material. It could be something emotional. It could be whatever it is. Put it on there. Make it big. Just know what you're striving for. Know what you're working for. Again, keep the BS from entering your mind and focus. And then I intentionally have the vision boards in the lobby when you walk in and walk out, even if you use the restroom, because every time you pass that lobby, you are seeing your vision and seeing your why. Why am I doing this? And I think that's really important. And my vision board is equally up there. It is up there. I don't have it here for nobody to see. I have it for me to see and for everybody to see so that I can see theirs too. I want to know what they're striving for so I can help them.
I would love to see a snapshot of that if you get a chance. Send that to
absolutely.
me. I'll post that. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that.
So that's what it comes down to. It's keeping the structure, having goals, and just not allowing the BS to enter.
Something you had said had resonated with me. I'm trying to play back in my head. Oh, when you were talking about food sensitivities, definitely, again, as a species, like if you went back 20 years ago, like gluten intolerance, what is that? Type 2 diabetes, very rare, like 1%, maybe 2% of population. So that ties into this whole thing about, we again have access to food with a click on an app. A lot of these foods are processed and high in sugar. So if you look at, any research on not necessarily plant-based eating, but eating clean as best as you can, and then doing, as you mentioned, getting a food sensitivity test done goes back to that whole idea of being your own experiment. Just what a person or a doctor or a nutritionist tells you, there's merit to that, but until you learn your biology and what you are composed of and what works for you, your DNA, your blood type, regardless of what anyone else says, that is super, super key. So I really hope people take heart to what you mentioned there, Matt. I think that's really important because there's so much, again, misinformation about what healthy is. And while what's healthy for me, like I love almonds, I eat them every day, certainly your body's going to respond differently. And then, if it's something that you really enjoy, like for me, like my mom's homemade meatballs and spaghetti, I don't eat meat very rarely, but when I go home, I engage because there's love and meal and like a lot of emotions with that meal, and I don't want to miss out, so I enjoy it. And then, my body has a reaction. I'm like, okay, but it was worth it. But you have to make those decisions. Was that really worth it in the moment? Absolutely. But as long as it's not something that's becoming a daily occurrence where that your body doesn't respond very well to whatever this stressor is, like limiting those stressors is really super important. And, I know Bruce is a huge fan of the vision board. I am as well. One of the things that I usually like to tell folks is if they have a goal that really seems so far out is write it on a sticky note or somewhere and put it where you see it first thing in the morning when you get up. Or like when I'm working with people that are trying to make some nutritional habits, we put things on the refrigerator. And in the refrigerator, but those little signals, your thoughts come and go so fast. So in the moment when you're thinking, oh, I want this, this chocolate cake because I'm craving chocolate. Like if you just sit with it for a minute, notice that you're having that response, that physical response where you're wanting this, where you're desiring this, it's going to change pretty quickly. And it just stopping our thoughts or changing our thoughts or reframing our thoughts or thinking again, oh, is that person, 1 year from now really going to be that goal that I have for myself 1 year from now? If I keep making these excuses, I'm never going to reach that goal. So.
And that's just it. The vision board, while the concept is not new to me at all, it's new to me to deploy it. Mm-hmm. People in my past, they've had it. And, it's amazing the visions they put on there. And again, a lot of the friends that I have, they tend to be materialistic, but there's nothing wrong with that. Mm-hmm. People don't need to feel ashamed because they want a big boat or they want to fly in a private jet. But it helps keep the mind focused, helps keep the mind busy on task because you do want to achieve that vision. I had a few employees here. One of them wanted to create a podcast. Great. Let's help you do it. What does that look like? Because it's not expensive. Mm-hmm. You need a microphone, computer, and et cetera. But what's the topic? What does it look like? Let's shape that. Let's form that. And it's a great vision to have.
I like that. Something you said there resonated again with me. So you're talking about the person that, maybe you want a Jeep or a truck or, a vacation, extended vacation somewhere. I think in the workplace, it's important to remember those goals because that's why we're doing the job. We're showing up because obviously there's a financial need there so that we can experience whatever it is that is meaningful to us. So say you're a person that, maybe you don't care about those things and you just like having time off, make sure that you're working for a company where, they have a pretty decent PTO policy. I hear that a lot with folks that like, not necessarily after the money, but that me time is really important. So I had someone, come to me, not at Global Trans where I work, but had mentioned that they were seeking a career change, and the hours involved in the job, and this is a person a little bit older, just wasn't conducive to their health and well-being. So money was not the priority. It was making sure that they had time to do other things, hiking, camping, fishing, those things that don't really cost a lot, but they require that time investment. So I think that's important for people to remember when you're creating that vision board. Are you setting your life up in a way that's going to cater to whatever that vision is Because if you're in a position that doesn't allow for that, whatever that is, or provide for that, it's just going to take you a long time to reach it, if you ever reach it, and you're going to be pretty stressed out, I think, in the process.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, go back to the PTO, it is actually amazing. I've been hearing more studies, and I don't have the actual percentages, but, people want PTO. Mm-hmm. And that's what they, sometimes that is the biggest benefit. Mm-hmm. It may not be necessarily health insurance. Mm-hmm. Or when we come to the idea of awards, rewards for goal setting, goal making within a company, not so much a vision board. Mm-hmm. PTO is a great prize. In fact, this past January, we joke, it started off as a joke, about our Christmas party is in January, the company Christmas party. And, truth be told, the reason was initially we just forgot to schedule one. And it's like, whoa, we have employees now. So this company is a partnership.
Okay.
And for me and my partner are like, we should like have a Christmas party, shouldn't we? We have employees now. It's not just our wives, go to dinner. And so we did it in January. But then a comment was made by one of the employees who was married, and he's like, this is great that it's in January, because now we don't have to deal with juggling family obligations and spouse obligation to their company Christmas party. Uh-huh. And I'm like, yeah, that's why we do this. Yeah. So now it's the running, the thing is we always have it in January. It is intentional, purposeful. We'll never change it. But this year we gave out PTO, and you would not believe. We had a ticket system. In December, we ran a contest, and every employee was involved. They all had metrics, and they got tickets based on the metrics they hit. And then they could put those tickets in bags and win. I mean, we gave away a laptop, 65-inch TV, but nothing filled the bag more than the idea that they could get 5 extra PTO days in the year 2022.
Wow,
it was telling.
I think that COVID has definitely showcased the need to step away and reset, unplug, be connected with nature, and just kind of be without doing. And I think that for employers out there, if you're surveying your team and this is what they're saying to you, like, we value PTO, it's up to you to culturally and as leaders to support that if you want to retain your employees, because if not, there are plenty of people out there that are noticing, even we have mental health days now. In different countries, you can get a prescription from a doctor for being out in nature. I forget the exact name of it, but it's something to do with the parks, and a nature prescription. And that is time away from the office for 2 weeks, sometimes even a month. But I think, having those conversations, again, going back kind of full circle to what we were talking about, like understanding as an individual what health means to us today, reevaluating it, being aware of our behaviors in the health realm, and communicating our needs to our employer is super important, because they can't read our minds. So if we're not speaking up for ourselves, and I think now more people are more willing to do that, to tap into those waters. And May's Mental Health Awareness Month. So I think it's important to say that, it's up to you to voice what your needs are, because no one else can hear what's going on inside of your head.
Yes. I think it's very important to voice if something is going on. It's important to say something. And, as an employer, you should have that suggestion box, that anonymous box, even if somebody wants to voice something. And then you can kind of identify it and see if you can pinpoint who that is, and open that discussion.
Yeah.
And be welcoming in it, because there is a lot of stress, and it's not going to change. And especially in our industry, as you know, you can't bottle it up forever. You have to find your outlet. And if you can't find it yourself, reach out to someone that can help. There's plenty of people that can, but it starts with asking.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess that's one thing to kind of bring it together, right? I mean, it starts with that one step. If you don't start, if you don't do that one squat you mentioned earlier, it all starts with that one thing, that one step, whatever that step looks like. If it's reaching out to somebody, if it's doing a squat, if it's not going to McDonald's on your lunch break and instead bringing a chicken breast and a pound of broccoli, which is what I eat every day. That one step is where it needs to start.
Yeah, and I think that the more that we're aware of how important these little steps are in life, and we pay attention to how we feel, how we function, how we interact with each other, how we're more joyful, how we have more happiness in our lives. I think that will help our industry, and for men especially, because I'm going to be a supporter of men here. Like, society puts a lot on your shoulders, and you're taught to suppress a lot of things. You're taught to carry the weight of the family, and to keep pushing forward, and depending on, your childhood experiences and the values and how you've grown up and different influences on your life. Like, sometimes you feel embarrassed or ashamed or less worthy, or like, what's wrong with me? Like, I'm not feeling so great. Like, and feel uncomfortable and not trusting of voicing your needs to someone, because maybe that just wasn't your experience growing up. So I really hope that men out there, have those conversations and not judge yourself, and know that you are worthy of living in a way that supports your health and well-being, whatever that looks like for you.
No, I mean, absolutely. And I will say, complimenting back to the women, I think about my wife who, she's at home. Our kid's a little older, but she's going to run the entire household. So, me as, the provider, I kind of look at it as regardless of sex, but, I've got the weight of the financial responsibility to make sure that there is a house for her to tend to and handle. So it can be stressful. But then as a business owner, I look at all the families. There are many, many families at this company that are dependent on this job. And while, yes, of course, in this current climate, they could find another place to work, that's troubling. That's stressful to have to go through that process. So, we do carry a lot of weight. But, I mean, I think we all do. I think it is efficient that people try to make society these days. They're just adding so much more stress. I mean, you said it early, when we first started. What we had to deal with 100 years ago, pales in comparison to what we have to do today, just to live our lifestyle. So the amount of stress on the mind has compounded along with the change of society.
So taking it back to our listeners out there, with the podcast, we always leave with an action item, something for folks to think about and reflect about, and then maybe dip their toe into making maybe a change that will help support their energy, so that they can be productive and live more mindfully and experience joy, or what have you. What would you like to suggest? I know I didn't give you a heads up on this, but it sounds like you're right in the space to be someone to share something helpful.
I'm going to say, I thought about this, because I thought about the topic that we were going to discuss today and everything. I would say one of two things. One, if you already have a rough idea, but you're afraid to take that step, take that step. Whatever that is. I'm not even talking about anything specific.
Okay.
Take that first step. But
that feels good.
I have put a lot of weight into sleep. A lot. I believe I've cured my sleep apnea because I started sleeping better, and it just, everything compounded with the weight loss. I don't believe I snore still. You'd have to ask my wife, but I think my snoring has kind of subsided. But I would say, if you need a place to start, look at your sleep. Tonight, this will air, I believe, different, not on Friday, but next Friday comes around, next Saturday comes around. Are you going to the bar? Are you staying up late watching TV? Or are you going to go to bed at the same time you would as if you had to wake up for work the next morning? Keep the cycle. I think from there, other things will unfold and present themselves. But I really put a lot of weight onto sleep and proper sleep.
Consistency. I like that.
Yes.
I totally agree. All right, folks, challenges out there.
Get some sleep.
Prioritize your sleep, and then notice how much better you feel. And then if something is really on your mind that you want to pursue, as Matt alluded to, take that first step, no matter how small. And then notice how you feel and how it changes the whole rest of your day.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Matt. So action item for you, I would like a shot of your vision board. So please send that to me. I'm going to post it.
100%.
And then,
I will do that after we're done.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
Rhonda, thanks for having me on. It was a great
talking
pleasure.
to you. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.